tleng a kopa re bone sentle tleng ema pele
ngomthola station at Clover stop no
why
Lastly, I must say that the views that are shared on my channel are my views and my views alone. Please don't try to link it to anything that I'm currently doing or have done in the past, because you're on your own. Alright? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while. I started a new job, trying to get into it, so it's been quite a hectic month, and I have been quite demotivated or discouraged. But I'm back because things that encourage me and things that motivate me are things that I'm passionate about, including this story that I'm going to talk about today. So as you would have seen from the intro video, this video was circulating on social media, on Twitter, and also reported in the news during the course of last week, where an 18-year-old student or pupil was seen being dragged by police officers, screaming at the top of her lungs on the side of the road. Apparently the incident happened in Krugersdorp. She was being dragged and pulled into a unmarked vehicle. It was confirmed that the vehicle was a police or a state-owned vehicle. However, it was unmarked. The people who are seen in the video are wearing police uniform. However, given the fact that one of the police is wearing a balaclava and the car is unmarked, I am not surprised the particular pupil or lady in the video was very distraught, very frightened, and not sure what was going on. I am not sure what was the reason she was being dragged into an unmarked police vehicle. The two versions that I've heard is that she wasn't wearing a mask, and the other version is that she refused to give her cell phone number to the police. I hope to have verified what the real story was before I post this video. But yeah, this particular incident reminded me of a story I learned of earlier this year. And that's the story of Liqhayiya Tuta. I know I did not say his name correctly. Forgive me, I am not Xhosa speaking, and I've always struggled with clicks. Anyway, so the story of Liqhayiya Tuta will be explained in two parts, and wherever you feel it's necessary to listen to my video, you will. So I'm going to start off with the actual story, and then I'm going to end off with an analysis or a distinction between self-defense and putative private defense. Right. In the year 2018, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Tuta and his friend who resided at the time in Sunnyside were out late at night having drinks at a pub in Sunnyside. He was a second-year LLB student at Unisa as well. After they had had some drinks, they obviously left the pub and they were walking the streets of Sunnyside going home. What happens thereafter is that they are then followed by a red Polo vehicle with two men who were in the car. They obviously get frightened. I might be leaving out bits and pieces of the story, so it's not entirely accurate. If you want the full story, or if you want a more accurate story, I would suggest you read the judgment of the case. But I think the information that I share on this video will be sufficient. So they were followed by a red Polo. There's obviously two versions. There's the version of the people who were in the car, and I will tell you who they were shortly. And there's the version of Mr. Tuta and his friend. I think for purposes of this video, I'm going to use Tuta's version. They were followed by this red Polo. And at some point, they started to run because the guys in the Polo swore at them. And they took out a gun, clicked a gun, they got frightened, they ran to a Shell garage in Sunnyside. I think it's the Shell garage on Esselen Street, if you know Pretoria very well. Then what happened is when they got to the Shell garage, the red Polo got there as well, and him and his friend split ways. So basically, they both ran away, but they ran away in two different directions. Tuta was the one who was chased on foot by the passenger of the red Polo and by the red Polo as well. Eventually, they apprehended him. Tuta alleges that they pinned him to the ground. One of the guys had his foot to his chest. They threatened him, they swore at him, and it then transpires that these two men who were in this red Polo were actually undercover cops who were undercover in an operation called Operation Fiela. However, Tuta says that at no point during the chase or during the time that he was being pinned to the ground, apprehended, and eventually pulled or dragged to the red Polo, was it ever notified, was it ever stated by the police that they were the actual police, they were just undercover. I must also then mention that they were not wearing police uniforms. So it was a red Polo, it was two police officers in civilian clothing. It is stated that they were wearing police vests, but given the time that the incident happened, it was at night. I'm not sure about the surroundings, the street lighting, how much light, how visible the police sign on the police vest may have been, but for all intents and purposes, they were wearing civilian clothing and they were driving an unmarked vehicle. So they drag him to the car, and the one police officer, so the one pins him to the ground, the other one goes and fetches handcuffs from the vehicle, comes to him, they pick him up, drag him to the car, trying to get him into the car. Tuta then alleges that he thought that he was being robbed and kidnapped by these unidentified people driving a red vehicle. Because he was new in Pretoria, he's originally from the Eastern Cape, he says he carried a pocket knife around with him. So the two men's version for following the kids on the street was that they looked suspicious and that they were hiding a laptop which they assumed they had stolen from somewhere. So when they followed them and eventually chased them, it was on the basis that they believed that these kids, Tuta and his friend, had stolen a laptop. The time of the apprehension, where they eventually get a hold of Tuta, the laptop was actually never retrieved or recovered. So there was never a time where they saw the laptop. They claim that it slipped out of his jacket, slipped away, but it was actually never recovered from the scene. He pulls out a knife and he stabs the police officer who is trying to get him into the car. The police officer obviously falls down. He then tries to run away. He gets stopped by the other police officer who tries to block him from running away, and he stabs that police officer as well, and then he runs away. He runs to the first establishment that he comes across in Sunnyside, and he tells the security guard there that he's being people are trying to rob him and they're trying to kidnap him, and he basically needs for them to shelter him. Can he please get into the building? And they chase him away. He then runs to another establishment, apparently a club called YOLO in Sunnyside, and the security guard there says, okay, come in. I will keep a watch for any police vehicles that might pass by. If they do pass by, then I'll stop them for you, and then you can go and report this case, or you can go with them to go report this case to the police station. However, the police never actually pass the Club YOLO, and Tuta decides to go back to his place of residence. He obviously gets there and he tells his friends what happened. He calls his sister. The following day, him and his sister go to the police station to report what happened. Meanwhile, the friend, after they had split ways, decides to stop running, starts walking back to his residence. As he's on his way back to his residence, he notices that there is a commotion on the street and people have huddled up around two people on the floor, or people on the floor, and a vehicle. He says he did not know what was going on. He never went to the scene to see what was going on. He just ran home. It later transpires that that particular commotion, or the scene where people had huddled up at, was the same scene where Tuta had stabbed the two police officers. When he gets to the police station the following day, this is now Tuta with his sister. They obviously relay the story to the police. They come to state their case. They give the information that they have, but however, they could not give the number plate details for the red Polo. They didn't have the information of the people who were chasing them. So the police say to him that they cannot assist him and they cannot open up a case for him. However, they take his contact details, including his place of residence, in case more information comes about, and they would contact him. Shortly thereafter, or moments or hours thereafter, he is arrested at his residence for murder and attempted murder. So one police officer died, the other one lost eyesight in one of his eyes, and obviously related injuries to that as well. He was charged with murder and attempted murder. He was convicted of murder and attempted murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, as well as 15 years for attempted murder. Right, we're together so far. His defense during the trial was that he acted in self-defense. Based on his version, that he didn't know the identity of the people who were driving the red Polo. They had not identified themselves as policemen. They were driving an unmarked vehicle. They were wearing civilian clothing, that they spoke to him in a language he didn't understand. They swore at him. He only found out when he was arrested that he had killed and attempted to kill police officers. That's his version. The police officer's version was that at all times were Tuta and his friend notified that they are communicating with the police and that they were being suspected of having stolen an object. And these kids just ran away, basically, once they saw that they were gonna get in trouble if they got caught or arrested by the police officer. So when he stabbed the police, he knew what he was doing. He knew that there were police officers, and he was actually not acting in self-defense, because if he had stolen something, if he had done something wrong, and he was being apprehended for doing that thing, then his force, the force that he used to get away from the police, could not amount to self-defense. The state obviously won the case. So, like I said, Tuta was charged and convicted of murder, and he is currently serving a life sentence in prison right now. What a story. Now, how does this relate to the clip I played at the beginning of this video? I guess in a way I will be giving my opinion on the matter. South Africa is a country where citizens are known to pretend to be police in order to hijack, rob, even kill ordinary citizens, right? Police themselves use their official capacities to commit crimes as well. And the police can sometimes be bullies, right? I think a lot of those incidences arise in traffic violation matters, where a person is drinking and driving, or where they suspect a person is drinking and driving, and then they use so much intimidation in order to maybe get a bribe or whatever from the person that they are confronting at the time. I have a personal incident that happened to me when I was in varsity. I will maybe one day talk about it, not today. So going back to how does this Tuta story relate to the video I played in the beginning of this video? I watched, when I saw that video in the news, I was like, this reminds me of Liqhayiya Tuta. Like, I honestly believe he was in a similar situation where he didn't know what was going on. there was a red polo that pulled up next to him and his friend. They cocked a gun, swore at them. Next thing, they're being chased. It's midnight in Sunnyside, an unsafe area, and then he's been forced into a car and he doesn't know who these people are. He says they haven't identified themselves as police officers. And that explanation is reasonably, possibly true. And as such, my belief is that he wasn't supposed to be convicted of murder. At best, maybe culpable homicide, but not murder. And this is where the discussion of the difference between self-defense and putative private defense comes in. Self-defense is objectively determined, whereas private putative defense is subjectively determined. In other words, when it comes to self-defense, objectively speaking, you have to look whether or not a person was imminently in danger, and as a result of that imminent harm, they acted in self-defense. So they perceived that they were in danger, they were actually in danger, and they defended themselves. With private putative defense or putative private defense, you subjectively believe that you're in danger, but objectively, you're not. So you act out of that belief, that subjective belief that you are in danger, but because you're actually not in danger, your actions are still unlawful, but it has a bearing on culpability. That is your intention. Was it your intention to harm another person, or were you subjectively in the belief that you are defending yourself against the person? And if you're subjectively, and if you can prove that you had no intent, then your private putative defense should succeed. And the worst thing that could happen in that case is that you be convicted of culpable homicide, negligence as opposed to intention. So self-defense takes away the element of unlawfulness. It is lawful for you to act or to protect yourself, defend yourself where there's imminent harm against you. That is lawful. However, it could never be lawful for you to act against a person whom you think is endangering your life, where in actual fact they are not. That is still unlawful. However, we say you did not have the intention to harm them. You just intended to protect yourself. This is as simple or as lay as I can put this. I don't know if you don't understand, then I think it makes sense, right? So in Tuta's case, he was unable to prove self-defense or private putative defense. In fact, they said his version of the story, his account of what happened, was not reasonably possibly true. They favored the state's account of what happened over his, and hence he was convicted of murder and attempted murder. When it comes to sentencing, which is a separate, which are separate proceedings in criminal trials, the minimum sentence for killing or the murder of a police official is life imprisonment, and that's why he got life, unless there are special or compelling circumstances that could lead or justify a lesser sentence. In the absence of compelling or special circumstances, you would be sentenced to life. And that's what happened to Tuta. So yeah, that's the story. I don't think he should be in jail. I think there was an injustice in this particular case. And I know his case is being appealed, and crossing fingers that he succeeds in one way or another in overturning either his conviction or his sentence. And yeah, and that's it. Like I said, I shot this video because I was like, this case, there were days like I really would wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my God, this kid is in jail. And I'm not convinced they should be, you know. But that's just my view. Thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, let's keep an ear out for any developments in this case. Google if you want to know what's going on. See, do your Google searches to see what's going on. But yeah, in the case, but justice for Liqhayiya Tuta, basically. And the girl who was dragged by police officers last week, I hope the parents sue the police, because what the hell. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Until next time.